Okay, so what we're going to talk about in this video is we're going to spend time looking at the rubric and what the rubric says about sample essays. So remember that in class I probably briefly talked about like each essay is given a score of 1 through 9, right? And that's different than the score that you are received overall, the 1 through 5. 5 like so the entire exam itself has a 1 through 5 score, 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest that you can receive. However, this is translated into a score, like this is the result of this score is when you do the multiple choice and the questions, or sorry, the essays. And so the essays, I'm talking about the essays, because the essays are the things that students seem to misunderstand how things are scored. And each essay is given a score of 1 through 9, and that's what's in your packet is a detailed rubric on page 161. And so that's what's on the screen right now is this one. This is the detailed rubric on page 161. The reason that it's important for you to be aware and know about this is because we as readers use this all the time. This is how you receive a score that you receive. There is no like, oh, well, I'm just going to give it whatever I think it receives. There are pretty clear guidelines about like what a student should receive in terms of a score. And we need this rubric because, as I explained in class, we read thousands of essays over the course of 10 days. The most essays that I've scored in a week in those 10 days is 1,200 essays. And so I couldn't do that if I was looking at every little thing in an essay. I need to have a rubric that tells me what to look for, what things stand out. Okay? And so I'm focusing on the 1 through 9 score. There are other scores that you can receive. Those scores are a dash. That shouldn't be like that. So when you get if I were to score a dash, that means like it's completely blank. It's a blank essay. So don't do that. Please don't do that. The other score that you can receive is a 0, and that's when it's completely off topic or in another language. And yes, we do receive those. However, this is under strict scrutiny, meaning like even if I wanted to give it a blank, I have to give it to someone else to double check I'm not missing something. And if I want to give it a 0, I have to make sure someone else, because even if you mention the word, like one word, that's from the prompt, then that's considered on topic. So for example, the essay prompt that we looked at in class, if somebody said Oscar Wilde likes disobedience, that's actually not a 0, it's a 1. Because it's on topic at least, you reference Oscar Wilde. But I'm not here, this is typically never an issue for us. That's not a problem, so don't worry about those scores. Let's start down at number 1, okay? So, like, when you look at this rubric, the rubric always has what the score is, a brief understanding provided by the College Board about what that means, and I've given you more explicit notes about what that means in each of these different essays. Because the rubric can be translated into the different essays, but as high school students, you kind of want to know what are the big differences between the argument prompt, analysis prompt, and synthesis prompt in terms of what the expectations are and what they're looking for. So a 1, very few students at Matamidi receive a 1, but I believe that you need to understand what that means. So a 1 is a score given to any on-topic response. So like I said, on page 160, where the prompt is about Oscar Wilde's position on on disobedience, if all you say is Oscar Wilde likes if Oscar Wilde likes disobedience, or if you said like Martin Luther King used civil disobedience, like literally that's on topic. Now, the thing is that there's very little redeeming quality, okay? So like there's not much to work on in this. It may be very brief or very long. So please keep that in mind. That length has nothing to do with how well you do. Because I have scored 1s that go on for 5 pages. So like be aware of that. Just because you have a longer essay doesn't mean that it's good. Now, sometimes length can determine how well things are. In terms of like middle level scores, you probably want it to be a tiny bit longer than 2 pages because that allows you more space, or that means that you have used more space to explain. But it doesn't matter. Length is not, they don't look at the length of an essay and be like, well, that's an automatic 1, 2, or 8. Scarcely coherent, meaning they don't really understand what you're saying. Full of mechanical errors. Grammar is problematic. And in fact, the grammar is so bad that it kind of is distracting. Or completely miss the focus of the prompt. So this happened a couple times on the Oscar Wilde prompt, where they talked about him as an Irish author and how much they liked his books or his plays. And so like, that's not on topic, that you miss the focus. The focus isn't Oscar Wilde. The focus is the concept of disobedience and how well it enhances or promotes progress. So descriptors here are just words that you would use to describe the language, which is vacuous. Vacuous means like in a vacuum. There's literally nothing there. So like, if you're in science class, you're talking about space, a vacuum is where nothing exists. There's no wind, there's no oxygen, there is nothing there. It's complete silence and there's nothing happening. So vacuous means that it has nothing going on. Inexact, meaning like it's off base, meaning like you are completely off base with the topic. Okay? And the last one, mechanically unsound. So like grammar is a problem and distracting. So that's what those mean. So those are the general descriptions of a 1. Okay. So when we're looking at the argument prompt, there's no organization. So like it's vacuous because it seems like you're just blop, 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 jumping. There's no evidence presented. Okay, no warrant is present, so you never explain yourself. Student doesn't answer the prompt, mostly just restates the prompt in general. So what a 1 looks like, just so that you are aware of what a 1 looks like. Take a look in your packet. It is page 189. So that's this one here. Okay, so this student says, during the course of time, rebellion has been establishing greatness and destruction. So, okay, it's on topic. So we're talking about rebellion, greatness, destruction. Okay, kind of about as Irish author Oscar Wilde said, it is through disobedience that progress has been made, through disobedience and through rebellion, written in 1891. Okay, so they're repeating the prompt. To my understanding, he is absolutely right. Okay, so they have a position. For instance, many of our tragic events were caused by this form of act. So that, I don't know what that means. So that already, there's confusion there. So when we look back at the rubric here, this concept of like inexact, the grammar doesn't, where am I looking here? No evidence, student doesn't answer the prompt. So like, mechanical errors or coherent. I'm not sure what that means. So already the student tells me like, yes, I'm on topic, so they automatically get a 1, but now we're kind of like, okay, where are you going with this? So let's keep looking. Alexander the Great, many believe that European power to gain riches were based on Alexander. What? What's happening here? Very confusing. A great general, yet horrendous in destroying every little thing and gain land. What? How do you know this? Explain. What is your evidence there? His disobedience promote his with great power and was the greatest conqueror of Europe and throughout Asia. For that reason, for many years, Europe loved getting land, people, riches, and power. Meet, conquer, kill, 3 aspects. Okay, this went off in a completely different direction. I have no idea what's happening here. So, and actually, what I will tell you is that this shows, this oftentimes, or not oftentimes, but this is pretty much clear to me that this, frankly, English is probably not the student's first language. There's such a disruption in understanding here. There's such a disruption in understanding here that I'm having a problem realizing what the student is trying to say. Like there's missing words in here, the missing concepts, and so like the student attempts to make an argument, but it is really unsuccessful. It is not coherent. There's nothing that's said. It's vacuous. There are mechanical errors. It's inexact because oftentimes because of the word choice, I don't know what it's trying to say, and it's mechanically unsound, really problematic, right? So there's no really organization. There's no evidence presented. They just say that Alexander took stuff, and then no warrant is present. They don't explain how this relates to social progress. It tells me that it relates to like getting land, but how is that progress? And the student doesn't really answer the prompt. They attempt to, they bring up the prompt, but it's not, they don't really explain it. So in the next video, I'm going to skip number 2 and I'm going to jump to number 3. Okay, so in the next video, you'll see what level 3 looks like. I'll talk to you about the rubric and what level 3 looks like.